I'm a good baker. I enjoy making sweet treats for everyone to enjoy. My daughter-in-law, Emily, is very health conscious, and even more so now that they have 2 kids. She's the type of person who avoids sugars, mostly eats organic, and avoids processed foods. When the grandkids visit, I usually make cookies or something sweet for them to enjoy. Every time she sees them, she usually talks about how they're unhealthy. We got into an argument about this a few months ago, about not giving the kids junk. I pointed out that everything was homemade, and I wasn't only serving them cookies. My son stepped in on this, and we compromised that the kids could have 1 cookie when they're here. This was good for a while until yesterday. The kids came over last night, and I made a batch of cookies. They were cooling on a rack. Emily and my son decided to chat a bit before heading out. During that time, Emily went into the kitchen and threw away the cookies. When I asked her why she did that, she claimed she was doing me a favor since they were unhealthy. I yelled at her, saying she had no right to throw away food that I had worked hard to make. She got defensive and said she was just trying to help. My son stepped in and told me to calm down, but I was furious. Emily left the room in tears, and now my son is saying I overreacted and should apologize. I told my son that I wouldn't be babysitting until he handled the situation, and I wouldn't apologize. Am I the idiot for losing my temper over cookies? She threw away cookies for you that you made with your ingredients? In your house? What in the world? Not the idiot. I would be furious. Groceries are expensive. I feel bad for your son. This is not the case of the overbearing mother-in-law. This is a case of an unreasonable daughter-in-law. I don't feel bad for the son. I'd be ashamed of him. Imagine having a wife that controlling, entitled, and manipulative, and thinking she should be apologized to rather than for? How is throwing out food not an overreaction? Daughter-in-law has a ferociously unhealthy relationship with food if she can't even control her actions around food that doesn't even belong to her. She sounds like an almond mom and may be modeling unhealthy relationships with food to her children. Daughter-in-law's crying is manipulative, idiot behavior. Ugh, your daughter-in-law shouldn't be allowed in your home. As for babysitting, your home, your rules. No more nonsense compromise. Obviously, daughter-in-law doesn't respect the compromise she agreed to. It's not like grandkids have food allergies. Also, you're doing them a favor. They're not entitled to your time. Tell your son to handle his wife in respecting your home. The idea that your daughter-in-law can make decisions in your home is complete nonsense. Stand your ground. Your daughter-in-law and son must get over herself and return to reality. Call your son over alone and let him have it. My great-grandma made a baby blanket for me when my mom was pregnant. She did that for all her kids, grandkids, and then great-grandkids. I was the youngest until now. Great-grandma would make it clear to the parents involved that the baby she made the blankets for should be considered the owner and that it shouldn't be something they kept from us. So this is what always happened. I always had mine. My parents tried to take it from me a few times, but my great-grandma stepped in each and every time. I loved mine because she had started experimenting with her knitting, and my blanket is more unique than the rest and feels just a little more personal. I treasure it, despite being a nearly adult-age guy. I treasure it more because my great-grandma died when I was a tween, and I miss her like crazy. So my parents couldn't have more kids for years. They tried for years and even did IVF when I was a pre-tween, but didn't have another kid from it. Their focus was so set on that, I always felt like I wasn't good enough. This is something extended family brought to their attention a few times. It was comments like, "I just want a baby so bad I can't imagine my life without a child," from my mom, and comments from my dad like, "We feel so incomplete without a baby," that would get family members to take notice. Those were some of the kinds of comments that left me feeling as I do. It was never another baby. It was always a baby, like I was invisible. They talked about having a baby as their biggest dream. It stung so much to have their life focus around that, and they'd get so depressed about not having a baby. Great-grandma, before she died, told them to be thankful for the blessing, aka me, and how they already had a baby, and they were letting me grow up without them. It didn't change anything, and I grew up basically without my parents. They have no idea who my friends are or what's going on in my life. This was a surprise pregnancy, and my parents were so excited. They did all the early tests to find out that they were having a girl, and they started shopping for her. But then my mom got sad because great-grandma isn't around to knit her a blanket too, so they told me they wanted mine. They didn't ask, they told me. And when I said no, they grew angry. They said she deserved to have a blanket from her great-grandma, and their baby needed one. I asked what I was, and they said, an almost grown man. I left the blanket with my best friend because I was afraid my parents would search the house to find it. They were so angry, and they started doing the guilt trips, saying my baby sister deserves better, and how can I look at myself in the mirror knowing I don't want to share this with her? They told me it's like I don't even want her to exist, or I hate her for something, and she's not even born yet. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, the blanket is yours. It was smart of you to give it to a friend for now. Do not give it up. It's heartwarming that it means so much to you. Also, OP, are you adopted? It might be time to find out. I'm so sorry you're going through this crap. You deserve better. And even if you are adopted, that's no excuse for this kind of abuse. Maybe dad's not his bio dad. That's a good point. Still, makes parents terrible. Every time they ask for your blanket, respond with, Mom, you have a blanket made by great-grandma that you could give the baby, and say nothing else. Give them no other response, because they seem like the type to try to twist your words. There are plenty of grown men out there who have stuffed animals or blankets from their early years. It takes a real man to acknowledge their affection for things of sentimental value. I, 26 female, am getting married in a few months to my fiancé, Alex, 29 male, and one major issue is causing significant stress. I don't want my dad to walk me down the aisle. My dad has struggled with alcoholism my entire life. Growing up, he was unreliable and often absent, which led to a childhood of broken promises and instability. My parents divorced when I was a young teen, mainly because my mom couldn't handle the situation anymore. After the divorce, I took it upon myself to try to help him get sober, believing that if I tried hard enough, he'd change. But despite my efforts, he never stayed sober long. The emotional scars from those years are profound, and I've spent years in therapy working through the pain. Part of my healing process has been accepting that he wasn't the father I needed. Because of this, I've decided that I want my mom to walk me down the aisle. She's been my unwavering support, especially when my dad's alcoholism caused our family so much turmoil. My mom has made countless sacrifices to provide stability and support, attending every important event and ensuring I had opportunities despite the chaos at home. Her consistent love and dedication have been the foundation of my life, and honoring her in this way feels fitting. However, Alex's parents are very traditional and religious, and they've offered to pay for a significant portion of our wedding. When they learned I didn't want my dad to walk me down the aisle, they were shocked and didn't understand my decision. They believe that tradition dictates a father should walk his daughter down the aisle, regardless of past issues. They also see this as a chance for my dad to show his care and make amends in front of everyone. They've suggested that allowing him this role could heal old wounds and bring our families closer together. They think I'm being too unforgiving and missing an opportunity for reconciliation. Alex has been incredibly supportive and understands why this decision is important to me. He's been trying to explain my perspective to his parents, but they're firm in their views. They've made it clear that if my dad doesn't walk me down the aisle, they'll withdraw their financial support. He's worried about how he'll manage the wedding expenses without their help. I feel conflicted. I don't want to compromise on something significant to me. The thought of my dad walking me down the aisle feels so wrong on so many levels. At the same time, I understand Alex's concern about the financial implications. I've tried to explain my feelings to his parents, but they seem unable to grasp the depth of my pain, viewing my stance as stubborn and unforgiving. Am I being too stubborn by refusing to let my dad walk me down the aisle? Am I the idiot for prioritizing my feelings over the financial help that we need for the wedding? Not the idiot. Obviously, their stance in favor of tradition over your emotional needs, not just some arbitrary whim, at your wedding is indefensible. Please realize you don't need a fancy wedding. You want it. Refuse the money. Your principles and integrity are worth more than a fancy wedding, and taking the money will set a precedent that the idiot in-laws can use their money to bully you. At this point, I would expect them to always bring this up in any future disagreement. You took our money for your wedding, so now we have the right to tell you what we expect, even decades later. Better to cut that cord now. Return the money. Show that you can't be bought. Plan what wedding you can afford yourselves. Agreed. Do not set a precedent of his parents controlling you, or they will continue to control you for the foreseeable future. Have the wedding you can afford on your own and assert your independence. A huge issue is how much of this issue is your in-laws versus how much is your partner caving to his parents. If it's the latter, don't marry this man. My husband and I have 3 kids in our home. My stepdaughter's a tween. I've known her since she was a toddler, and I became her stepmom when she was soon after. We also have a toddler son and an infant daughter together. To give some background info first, my stepdaughter's mom was not in the picture when I met my husband. She never wanted to claim any parental responsibilities, and when I met my husband, his ex had accumulated a lot of child support debt and had not seen my stepdaughter since the hospital. I signed up to be a second parent, and I love my stepdaughter. In my heart, I consider her one of my kids, just as much as my biological children. We had such a good relationship. She would sometimes call me mom, sometimes my name, but she'd always say my husband and I were her parents, and she adored her brother when he was born. Over 2 years ago, her mom came back into the picture and said she wanted to see my stepdaughter. My husband said it would need to be gradual, but my stepdaughter had a right to know her. His ex didn't like that and sued for full custody. And yes, after having nothing to do with her for 7 years, she lost. But this started us on a step-up plan to get her to gain some custody. It's been a nightmare. My relationship with my stepdaughter suffered badly because of all of this. Her relationship with her siblings has also suffered. She's rude to me now, refuses to listen to me, and rejects the 3 of us. It's always worse after she sees her mom. My husband took this issue to court, and the judge made it clear he will never sever the relationship between mom and daughter no matter what. I'm struggling. If I give her the time and attention needed, it comes at the cost to our younger kids. But if I just focus on them, it's not giving her the time and attention she needs. And the counselor told us that she needs to see that I'm not going anywhere. She really emphasized that it was important. The counselor even spoke to the judge, a different one this time, and the judge said he was going to follow the previous judge's decision that contact is never to be severed between mother and daughter. My husband brought this issue back to court because it was getting worse. So now we're at the point where I can't be in charge of all 3 at the same time all day, especially now that school is out. But even during school time, it's too much. I told my husband we needed to hire some sort of helper for me with the kids. He was against it and told me that it was a big expense after we spent a fortune on court and therapy. His parents heard us talking about it the other day, and they jumped in to say I wouldn't do all of this if these 3 were my bio kids, and I just want to pawn my stepdaughter off on someone else. I insisted this was not true, and I insisted that I needed help because the kids would suffer in the long run, and so would my mental health. My husband felt guilty because I got very emotional, but his parents said I just proved I wouldn't do this if they were all really mine. Am I the idiot? If they were all really yours, then there wouldn't be any alienating, disruptive birth mother in the picture, running up court costs, so the situation wouldn't have arisen. Are they seriously suggesting that one parent can cope with a struggling, traumatized child, a toddler, and a baby single-handedly and full-time if those children are biologically related to her? Also, it sounds like you're looking for help for your bio kids to spend more time with SD, so I don't see how this is you ignoring SD. Tell your husband to tell his parents to be useful or butt out, and tell your husband that you're not Superwoman and you need more help from him in managing his 3 children. Not the idiot, of course, but where's all this back child support? That's 7 whole years that she didn't pay a dime, if I read correctly. So that money could certainly hire an extra hand throughout the day. It hasn't been paid. She doesn't have a job that we can tell, appears to be living off of her parents, and has no income to garnish or anything. It's very frustrating, but she still owes it and the current support too, which also hasn't been paid, despite being in court for that as well. It worries me that I'll end up so worn down that I won't have anything to give to any of the kids. I can feel it coming already some days. I, 30 female, gave birth to our first child, Olivia, a couple of months ago. Being a first-time mom has been both beautiful and overwhelming. My husband, Jake, 32 male, was incredibly supportive during the pregnancy and promised that after Olivia was born, he would be there for me every step of the way, especially during those challenging first few months. Before Olivia was born, Jake and his friends had been planning a bros-only trip for this summer, a week-long vacation to a mountain cabin for hiking, fishing, and bonding. When the trip was being discussed, I reminded Jake that Olivia would only be a few months old and we would be deep in the newborn phase. He reassured me that if things got too tough, he would cancel the trip to help me out, and I trusted him. Now that Olivia is here, things have been harder than I anticipated. Between the sleepless nights, breastfeeding struggles, and just trying to adjust to motherhood, I've been feeling overwhelmed. Jake has been helpful, but I can tell he's excited about this trip coming up next month. Last week, I asked Jake if he could consider canceling the trip, reminding him of his promise. I told him that I was struggling and that having him gone for a whole week would be really tough on me. He seemed surprised and a bit hurt that I was asking him to cancel. He said he's been looking forward to this trip for months and that he needs a break. He also pointed out that his parents lived nearby and could help if I needed support while he was away. I understand that Jake needs a break and wants to spend time with his friends, but I can't help feeling like this is a time when I really need him by my side. I tried to explain that while I appreciate his parents' help, it's not the same as having him there. Jake said I was being unfair by asking him to cancel the trip after all the planning that went into it, and that I needed to trust him to ensure that I was supported, even if he wasn't physically there. Now we're at a bit of a standoff. Some of my friends think I should let him go, saying that it's important for him to have some time away, especially after all the stress of becoming a new dad. But others agree it's too soon for him to take off for a week, and that he should prioritize being home with Olivia and me. So, am I the idiot for asking my husband to cancel his bros-only trip to help me with our newborn after he promised me he would? You were uncomfortable for 9 months. You went through labor, and now you're breastfeeding. What the heck does he need a break from? He was a giant idiot when he even planned this trip. He was a bigger idiot when he lied about canceling. He's the giant, gaping, insanely awful idiot now that he thinks it's unreasonable for you to not want him to be gone for an entire week when you're already overwhelmed. It doesn't seem like you'd want his parents to stay for that week while he's gone. This made me furious. I hope this is his only misstep, though I doubt it. Ugh, specifically because he said he would potentially cancel the trip to help her out? To help her with her pet project baby? It's very telling how he views the responsibilities of the household, and it's awful. I don't think he truly ever was the supportive partner he pretended to be. I assume that Jake will look after Olivia for a week once you've stopped breastfeeding and can go away for a break. Let Jake know that if he uses his parents for free childcare, it'll result in a further week of rest being required. Only a completely selfish witch would heck off for a week in the woods with his bros, with a newborn and an exhausted wife at home. He doesn't need a break. He needs to grow a pair and become a man.